Yeah, I want to talk about music for a minute because one of the things that we talk about on this live stream, and one of the things that I talk about quite a bit, is how music affects the spiritual realm. And I understand that King David and King Solomon used music to exercise. I'm talking about casting out, not having them do calisthenics, but to exercise demons. What examples are there in scripture of music being used to exercise demons in spiritual warfare? Can you share with us about that a little bit? Because I know we've got a lot of viewers that are very interested in that.
Yeah, this goes back to the episodes with David and Saul, as you specifically mentioned. Those are the most obvious ones where the evil spirit was sent by God to afflict Saul. Now, the word there for evil can denote a spiritual entity. It could be something like 1 Kings 22, when at the divine council meeting, when it's time for Ahab to die, a spirit steps forward and says, "Oh, I got a great idea. I'm going to be a lying spirit in the mouth of Ahab's prophets. That'll get him to go up to this place where he's going to get killed." And God says, "Yeah, that'll work." So it could be that kind of situation where God is assigning a member of the spiritual world to judge evil. Case. So the word could also mean just a general catastrophic psychological condition. It doesn't have to involve a spiritual being. Scholars are kind of divided on this, but that's probably the best example when it comes to music. You'll see music, used in other contexts. You do have music in divine council meetings, believe it or not, like Revelation 4 and 5. You have singing. Paul mentions, singing to yourselves with psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. And if you look at the context there, it's not really church services necessarily. It's something broader than that, just individual Christians. My own predilection here is that by whatever means, I'm not a musician, so I don't know anything technical about it. I'm sort of a music moron. But I think music needs to be used to convey truth, that is, to speak truth to lies. Speaking truth to lies is at the heart of spiritual warfare, whether it's an individual, confronting maybe an exorcism context, or if it's something different or something bigger. And that, if you can use music to bring back to remembrance, or I hate to use a word like this because it sounds negative, but implant good thinking, maybe a lyric or something like that into someone's mind, that can be very useful when they're in these situations where either they're under oppression or they're having to deal with something external, that we need to let this person know what the truth is. We also need to let the entity know that we know what the truth is about them. So I think, music can be part of that. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It does. And can you go back to where what are the verses again where music is used in the divine council meetings? Where can that be found?
4 and 5, you've got hymns, to the Lamb. Revelation 4 and 5 is a divine council passage. Divine council is fancy language for a meeting of the heavenly host with God. If you read the passage, that's what you have. In Hebrews 11, you have believers who become part of a festal gathering of angels, okay? Well, if it's festal, it's probably got music. Again, it's another divine council sort of thing. When God meets with his heavenly host, which includes humans, humans that are glorified, this is our destiny, to become part of the reconstituted council, to fill in the gaps, to restore what has been lost. This was the original plan, and God's never left the original plan, to have us with him in sacred space. That's the whole idea. You have these passages, Revelation 4 and 5, Hebrews 11, the great cloud of witnesses and festal gathering with the host of angels. It's a celebration. Music is going to be part of that. You have that going on. But I think it can also be something that is sort of a tool of assistance when it comes to either our recollection, our memory, or again, instilling in someone else. And music is a great way to do it. Something that they need to know, a truth they need to know about themselves, about the spiritual world, getting into identities here and whatnot. There are people I know that deal with severely traumatized people. What used to be called multiple personality disorder, now it's dissociative identity. These things like this. Again, the main strategy is you approach people in love, you speak truth to lies because they have been taught things about themselves and about spiritual entities and their destiny. And they don't want you to know. They want you to think that they still have authority over you. They do not.
Wow.
Okay, they do not. So they have to be reminded of this. And any way that you can get this into a person's head and life so that if they need to draw on it later, that's a good thing. And music is very obviously a tool, for doing this kind of thing. It can mediate really deep content in a very brief sort of way, a very memorable sort of way. It just sticks in your head. That is entirely worth doing. It's going to be useful. You never know what situation a person's going to be in, what they're going to have to draw, and how they're going to remember it. And if it's good theology, the Spirit is going to, it just goes in the toolbox that the Spirit of God can use and draw on a person to remind them of what the truth is and speak truth to lies.